Hey, Tom.
Hey, Pat.
What is your favorite Relient K album?
Ooh, it's a tough one. Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's my favorite album. Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite album?
Mm-hmm.
What? I thought that was going to go better. Let's start the show.
Okay. What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. They say you can't choose your family. Well, you also can't choose which era of music you grew up in. This is a weekly show where we discuss our favorite bands from adolescence and how they continue to shape our lives today. Each week, we'll head back to the early 2000s and take a closer look at the cards we were dealt. We are no Abbott and Costello. We'll say that.
Well, we only planned out like a third of what would have been needed to make that into a Who's on First thing. But anyway, hi. Yeah. And wow, you have me so back to like the ground. Like my brain has turned inside out. We are doing Relient K. It's been 15 years this month that their breakout fourth album, spelled
Breakout,
MMHMM. It was the most popular at the time, as far as I can tell. I mean, Chap Lips and Chapstick and things like Chemistry was a banger for sure from earlier in the catalog. But by all accounts, this was their masterpiece, right?
I think some would argue, what was it, 5 score? I think it might have done better, but if you were asking based in, I guess, reception or popularity of the time when we were early on in high school.
Well, shall we discuss?
Yeah,
sure.
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, wait, we already started the show. I treated that like the cold open too. We're just going to have a show full of cold opens. Hey, Tom, did you? All right, cool. Let's start it. Let's eventually get to it.
Before we get into it, though, I want to do some quick follow-up from last week, the My Chemical Romance reunion tour episode. I learned a couple new things since then. Did you know tickets were going for $153 a piece for that show?
What? No, I knew it was up
exactly. There. That's crazy. So Queen
crazy
Amanda,
cheap or crazy expensive?
Crazy expensive for. I mean, I don't think it's unjustified, but it's crazy expensive for the type of bands that we listen to, I think, right?
Yeah, that's like $150 more than you would expect to pay for. Or what was the number you spit out?
153.
Yeah, I mean, all those. I think you could have spent like $40 to see Fall Out Boy and Blink and Weezer and All American Rejects on that like 2011 tour or whatever. Like, it's going to be weird how, the OK Boomer craze or whatever, thinking about them spending what, $100 to see Adam Lazzara play with Queen or Elton John's farewell tour, paying hundreds of dollars. Like, thinking about what that our music is and paying more than like with the Ticketmaster prices and everything like that, the online industry and everything, it's gonna be like, oh man, it's gonna feel very odd, like considering the like the emo pop punk from 2005 as like, all right, guys, it's our farewell tour. How romantic! $300. What?
Right.
Like $300 to hear Stacy's mom, like Fountains of Wayne is getting in on this. That's crazy. No, I'll fork it up for sure. But I guess I'm not too surprised. That's not too bad.
I mean,
it'd be weird if that was like the whole tour's worth of ticket. But like, this is the pop-up show. This is the special event. I don't mind that so much.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it is weighted a little differently being the one-off. But they have booked more shows since, including one in Australia that Stand Atlantic is playing. If I were the eccentric 100,000-aire I aspire to be, I would be booking a flight for that show
Spaghetti
immediately. Yeah. Oh, God, I love her so much. Real quick, their producer, Stand Atlantic's producer, some of like Skinny Dipping, their first album was like probably sonically the greatest album I've ever heard in my life. Their producer, he actually heard the interview with Sam Pura a while ago, and I reached out to him through Twitter or email or something, and he's like stoked to come on the show and talk about the production of Stand Atlantic's second album, which they're in the process of recording right now. So that's super exciting.
Yeah.
But the point of this follow-up was Queen Amanda hath come down from the Facebook Messenger.
She doth.
So she doth. She's not on Twitter, but she messaged me saying, and this was very targeted. She acted like it wasn't. She said, anyone who thinks they're not opening with Welcome to the Black Parade is crazy. And that is obviously me. I tried to sway you that they are not going to open with that. I don't know how to bet on things like this, but I would bet I would bet $100 they will not open with Welcome to the Black Parade. Is there a way is betting illegal over Twitter? I don't really know how to
it depends what state you're in.
Okay.
We record in 2 different states, so the legality, I guess it's really kind of a gray area. It depends if we had a good lawyer or not. I think if I'll bet Black Parade, and if I win, we have to do a show that I really want to do that you have been hating. And
I will not do the Strokes.
That's fine. I don't love the Strokes. I just read a book about them. It's like, okay, I get it, but also f them, whatever. Like, they're just newfound respect in quotes. Like, they launched a lot. Whatever. Who cares? New York. If you live in New York, congrats. Yeah. Wow, I lost my train of thought. You mentioned the Strokes. Yeah, we'll get to pick a bad episode that the other person wouldn't want to do or something, or maybe we'll do like a sticker giveaway. If you have any ideas, tweet at us _reminiscentfm. Whoever tweets at us guessing the right opening thing, maybe we'll send them a sticker or a bookmark or a copy of Ron Carnage or something crazy like that. We'll come up with something tasty.
All right, sounds good.
And Jesse's sister is going to be there, so we'll get firsthand account. I'm sure it'll be covered extensively as well, but that's exciting. Yeah, it was kind of it's nice to have some breaking news. There's a ton of stuff going on. It's kind of weird. Like we could have done an episode on Kiss and Tell, the music video by Angels and Airwaves that came out recently and stuff. There's some spicy things going on.
Yeah, there were a couple reunions announced last week. Taylor Swift, we all woke up to a cover. It said remix of Lover featuring Shawn Mendes. It was less of a remix and more of they swapped out some of her good verses for some of Shawn Mendes' not so good verses, but nothing else was different.
Like the Old Town Road method of like keeping it on the charts, which I respect. I'm not even knocking it. The Yodel Kid, Mason Ramsey, going on like the 3rd Lil Nas X remix was the best. Like, if the apocalypse is here, then I'm glad we're just seeing the weirdest combination of possible. Like, he was just yodeling through it, and in the part where I guess Cyrus would have been there, but Billy Ray, that is. And I think the best line was, "If you don't have no giddy up, then giddy out my way." And I was like, yeah, man. This is the best. This is content. # content for days. So I'm not against it. Keep them coming out. Give me 4,000 Lover remixes. Who cares? You don't have to listen to them if you don't want to. So I say keep it going. Keep it going. Yeah. I will say this, and maybe we can talk about this more at the end of the episode. I have some Angels and Airwaves thoughts, I guess, on that music video. But
okay,
I think it might be my song of the week, if only because I actually have a song of the week this week. So I'm going to really cling to that one. So
nice. Okay.
Anyway, this is 15 years ago. This is news. Hey, everybody, 15 years ago. Relient K's. Hey, let's start the show.
Let's do.
Just kidding. Was this your favorite Relient K album? If not, why? If so, why? Where'd you come about it? I'm just the part of the show where I just douse you in questions and then interrupt you as soon as you start to answer any one of them. What are your first thoughts when hearing about it, revisiting it this week? What's going through your mind?
I don't remember the first time ever that I heard it. I feel like it was probably Sam Cray. He was into this type of music. He was like in youth group with me as well at the time. So, the Christian kind of vibes on the album. Obviously he would have been a fan. My first memory of listening to them was I pulled every song I could off of LimeWire, and my grandma had just moved to Sarasota, Florida from Erie, Pennsylvania, where we grew up. And we went down.
A lot of people from the great Commonwealth of PA go when they retire.
Yes,
Florida
absolutely.
has beaches, therefore must be better than this.
And polar opposites. You're going from 9 months of snow, one of the snowiest cities in the world, to lows of 70 degrees through the winter. I understand it.
You're going from snow to being near Florida, man. I think the trade-off is debatable. I'd love to have that debate. I don't think moving to Florida is the answer, but it is an oddly common thing. Not to just immediately attack your grandma, but
well, we drove to Sarasota. I think I did the drive 3 times. It's 21 hours straight. And we did it that year without, I mean, we stopped obviously for the bathroom, but we didn't sleep anywhere. My mom and her friend Cindy traded off in like 4-hour shifts or something. And I was in the back seat of this Ford Escape or something. And all I had were like 11 Relient K songs that I could find off of LimeWire. And this was before came out. I think.
We talk about how hard it is to say that name of the album. Like,
yeah,
if you're hoping for word of mouth, don't name it this. This is the worst. Like, this is the example one would use in like a marketing class, I feel like. Like, if you want to bank on word of mouth, that part of that has to be a mouth saying it. So don't name it that, because you're like, what's that? I feel like you always have to qualify, like, like you'll always over exaggerate, like I don't know. Yeah, no, I got you.
But one of those songs I just found out today wasn't even Relient K, which is again so LimeWire. It was a cover of Fraggle Rock, which I still to this day don't even know what Fraggle Rock is, but it was actually the band Alistair.
No, I thought that was Relient K.
For 50, yeah. Probably because he
Where
took
is for another day.
Right. That's not even Relient K. It was just labeled that, trying to get the, I guess that would be considered SEO on LimeWire.
Well, the thing is, they were known for, and their Wikipedia page kind of hints at this, that was a bit of a departure from their, like, silly, I guess, reputation. Like, they had done, in the Christian realm of things, they had done the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything or Say Anything. I forget the name.
So good.
For VeggieTales, which, shout out to VeggieTales, my dudes. Larry Boy, I had a Larry Boy themed Pinewood Derby car in Boy Scouts one year. It did horribly, but it was like, from a design standpoint, very spot on. So the rumor weed, out of here. That was terrifying. So yeah, I'm surprised the Fraggle Rock cover wasn't them, because it seemed like right up their alley. And then all out of nowhere, kind of, they came out with which was not a departure, but a more serious record. There was some existential stuff, some emo stuff, some girl songs, some God songs, some piano, some crazy guitar riffs. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't know if we wanted to jump into this part just quite yet, but it's a lot to take in. It's never the same idea twice, it feels like. They kind of weave in and out in a beautiful way. I don't think it takes away from the record at all, but I guess I wanted to ask you this main question, although I didn't want to cut short of the Florida anecdote, or if you had gotten to the point where that's how you were introduced to the band, was through these LimeWire downloads?
I don't know the initial introduction, but that's like my strongest memory of the band was like, man, I like some songs, I don't like others, and I think it was the super early ones that I wasn't a huge fan of. They definitely seemed to round their sound out a little more once came around, and that's when they, I guess, were kind of thrust into the public's mind. I don't know. I mean,
well, let's start here with this. You mentioned Sam Cray, some of the Christian group type dudes from our high school who were into Switchfoot. They were into Relient K. Something corporate isn't religious, but kind of that cleaner, you know what I mean? I don't know. There was just like a type of band that they would have been into.
Jack's Mannequin, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Which I think on the show, you have learned through doing this show that he's the something corporate guy, right? We've crossed that box.
I forgot that until I said it just now.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to jump down your throat about it, because I didn't want to like it. It would have been a low hanging fruit type thing, and I didn't want to do you dirty like that. But my question is this: it bobs and weaves the whole album, kind of. Do you think that they're trying to hide the religious thing and get away from it on the album because of how scatterbrained it feels at times? And scatterbrained is the wrong word. I think it's more like this tapestry of ideas. You go like through the first 17 minutes through My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend, you go from like almost metal-like riffs to like these minute-long punk-like songs through almost hymn-like piano passages. Right. And but like the first 6 songs, each song goes faster and harder than the last in the first few, it's just like, it's like they're trying to rock their way out from under the umbrella. Like they're trying to outrun it. Meanwhile, they're being true to themselves by sprinkling it in throughout. So my main question is like, did they do that on purpose or on accident? Are they just good and it was just naturally interweaved with the poetry they were writing? Or were they trying to outrun the label of being a Christian rock band and only sprinkle it in by ducking and weaving so hard throughout the entire album. Do you I mean, we had talked about this a little bit before recording, but I just didn't know what your actual opinion about that might have been, because that's my main question.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I mean, for me personally, there's no way for me to
Here's
know.
Sorry, last question. Did the record do better because it was only vaguely religious? You know what I mean? Intentional or not, did it do better because it wasn't at all in your face at any point?
Well, man, there's a lot there.
Yeah, sorry. I referenced before about the too many questions thing. That's the too many questions thing. But I guess we can start where the bobbing and weaving thing, where they don't string any similar ideas together too often.
Yeah, I mean, they wrote a song called "Maintain Consciousness" about ADD and not being able to focus on anything for long enough, and I don't know if it's intentional, but that theme kind of plays through the album. Like, I wrote a list here in our notes about songs that had dramatic changes throughout, and I have a list of 7 songs that end completely differently than they started or whatever. Like you said, that bobbing and weaving. Personally, I love the way that they do it. I think that might just be them having so much creativity that just the standard A, B, C, B, like pop composition method is too limiting for them. I think that a lot of bands try to like change it up, keep it fresh through the song, and it doesn't really work that well because it feels forced or contrived or whatever. But when I was listening to this album, it was before I really got into writing or composition or recording or anything, and it never really stuck out to me that much how differently each song ended.
No, it flows. It's almost like a rock opera type. You know what I mean? Like, they're just moving on seamlessly to a new idea. I had written down the 125 mark of Maintain Consciousness, where it's like, and it's just like, what the f-? You're like on track 11, and they're still surprising you with such like thoughtfulness. But then it goes right back to the 17, 18. It's just like, but you don't think about it. It's just good. And then you go back and listen 15 years later, or listen to it all the way through or whatever, and you're like, damn, like, it's so good. It's so different from at any given point. And maybe they're just that. The simple answer, I guess, for me is they're just that good, and they just happen to be Christian, and that's part of their poetry. But in terms of being a pop punk band or an emo act, I guess more of a punk band, right? Or pop punk. They're just good, and that's just a part of what influences maybe the poetry. I don't know. Maybe they just are that good. But also, I don't know. The speed at which the first 5 songs come at you feels like they're overcompensating for something a touch. Do you feel that way?
I mean, I listened to the song maybe 4 times throughout the past week, and it did shock me listening back how fucking hard this band can rock. And, going back to like what I had just said earlier, I think, like you mentioned, the fact that it flows so seamlessly just goes to show that, like, no, they're just super talented and creative, and I think they're just kind of doing whatever they want to do and not trying to be anything. But the Christian stuff, oh God. So I was a Christian at the time.
Yeah, you want to get into it? Is this that?
I mean, I don't really know how much you want to talk about. I don't really have much to say other than you wrote an article about this album that's going to be in our show notes, reminiscentpodcast.com. If you haven't gone to the website yet, there's been some changes I'm pretty excited about. But you mentioned that, like, when Relient K was introduced to someone via word of mouth, there was this interesting trivia thing of like, oh yeah, they're a Christian band. And I don't really know why anyone seemed to care that much. I don't know if it was like, if someone who was not a Christian was like, oh, I'm just letting you know, I know that they are, but they're not like super Christian. Like, don't judge me and think I'm a Christian. But then Christians were like, oh my God, they're a Christian band and they actually rock pretty hard. It's not just Jars of Clay or whatever the hell was out at that time. Like, they were a proper like pop rock band that just happened to have at sometimes Christian undertones, other times, When I Go Down, the album closer, it's a little more to the forefront. It was just kind of this interesting thing that everyone knew, but it didn't really seem like anyone cared about it. God, I want to say too many things at once right now.
Here's a question for you. Let's simplify it. We, Gen Y, that is, millennials, sure, are often romantic about the fact that we are the last batch seems inhumane to reference but the last generational group that had access to the pre-digital age, right? The playing outside,
Yeah.
whatever boomer nonsense. Yeah, that Twitter user who is cropped boomer memes is my favorite thing ever.
Oh yeah.
But that pre-internet dial-up phone, whatever. We do have memories of that kind of connection to the old world, whatever. Do you think a part of that doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that after Switchfoot and Relient K, did we see the last era in which like a mainstream Christian rock act can crack the like consciousness or like main discussions? Like, are people going to church less? Are people, like, is there an element of spirituality nowadays in the age of the internet or things like that? And I'm really overstepping my bounds here because I've done zero research on this. But in terms of like nuclear family in the 50s onward, where our parents would have been every Sunday, altar boy, maybe church, was majorly a part of our lives. And specifically for you and me, that applies because we were raised Catholic. And I don't know if obviously in the Catholic Church, numbers are down. I don't think it takes a PhD's amount of research to say that is true or accurate. But do you think that we kind of got the last gasp of bands that would even try to do that? Or, you know what I mean? Like in terms of this whole connection to the pre-internet world thing, was there also an element of like religion that we're not going to see again in music? Or is that just me being generationally nonsensical about any number of things?
Well, let me ask you a question I know you know the answer to.
Ooh.
Do you know the album title of Kanye West's new album?
I know people thought it was bad, but I don't know I know it was religious and he's been doing those services lately, but I don't know the name.
It's called Jesus is King.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. So that debunks everything I just said. Although Kanye's kind of an old world dude, though. He's older than us.
Well, let me say, I saw a tweet the other day that kind of tied it all together. It said, Kanye West's new album will never do for Christianity what late 2000s metalcore did for Christianity.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I remember back in high school, it was almost a scene within the scene was to go to a Christian show, specifically in Erie, that band that we mentioned before on the program, the pod, whatever, who cares? Still Frame Sky was part of their whole thing. They would like pray on the stage and stuff. It was like a way to, not that they were utilizing this as a way to do anything. It was just who they were. But yeah, I mean, there was a niche there to fill for sure. I'm not saying people don't go to church anymore. I don't want to get misconstrued at all. But based on the reception of the new Kanye album, the conversation it started wasn't Jesus is King. It was, wait a minute, there was a point that we missed 4 albums ago where Kanye's career took a drastic turn from genius, which is tough. You can't stay genius forever. It's kind of like the Taylor thing. Like we're kind of waiting for the drop off. Maybe it already happened. And maybe once another mediocre album that isn't on the caliber of Red or 1989 comes out, we'll start to talk about those things. But, it didn't, I think, start the conversation. Maybe he wanted it to. People were just like, yeah, Kanye's not as good as he was, huh? I guess we kind of known this for a while now. But in the mid 2000s, at least, and maybe this is people only ever generationally speak about their childhoods, and that's fine. It's just going to repeat itself. So let's just play into that real quick. It was a major scene and a thing to delve into, and I think something that you were definitely heavily involved in as well, right? Like, it wasn't just like this disclaimer when you found out word of mouth about Relient K. It was like, yeah, I'm into it. I'm a Christian. This is the vibe for sure. Like, it was a heavy scene to kind of get swallowed up into if you cared to, right?
I mean, I think a big part of why we don't perceive there to be this like big Christian scene like there used to be is because we're not in high school anymore. We don't get that like, word of mouth. Your buddy comes up with his MP3 player saying you got to listen to this song, which is like how I found out about all my favorite bands in high school. Like we're not getting that. So just like our parents who only listen to Led Zeppelin, for example, they haven't listened to anything since that album was new. We're kind of falling into that category as well. So like, I'm totally happy to say I am blind to what the scene is like now for kids that, are in high school or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, but like it definitely was very present in 2005.
Well, let's whittle it back from the Kanye stuff into the punk rock realm or pop punk realm. there haven't been a ton of like splashy acts like Relient K. Like, and again, maybe we're speaking without doing enough research, which I don't want to derail the pod through just like returning to a point that I can't prove. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we should just move on. But I keep thinking back to that South Park episode where Cartman starts a religious or a Christian rock band.
Faith plus one.
Faith, yeah, exactly. You know, I think there was a world before that episode and a world after that episode, perhaps, you know, or
Sure.
attitude. You know, maybe, right? Like, not to give too much power to the South Park dudes, but I think there's a lot of stuff they satirize with such, I guess, sharpness that it kind of just killed it with a single episode a lot of the time. I don't know. But, you know, when I go home, the childhood church I went to isn't around. You know, 2 of them are gone. They all go to the one in Harbor Creek or whatever. When we were coming up, it was like big. And again, maybe Erie, Rust Belt towns coming on tough times isn't indicative of the entire country or whatever. But at least in our hometown, there's fewer, like, at least for my neighborhood, what seems like fewer Catholic schools, fewer busloads of like youth groups going to these like national jamborees and yes, Lord, yes, Lording it up. And like, was there a surge of that in the mid 2000s that I think maybe gave credence to, or gave a little bit of power and a little bit of reach to what Relient K was doing at the time?
I definitely think it was a product of their time and probably wouldn't have half the splash if it came out now. I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to speculate about that, but I do think that they hit at the right time when Christians and non-Christians alike were kind of receptive to this kind of stuff. But again, they flirted that line flawlessly of like, wait, are they a Christian band? Is this a song about a girl? Is this a song about God? Like, I think they did it better than anyone else, but it definitely made it weirder when they hit the more worshipy parts. Like, I mean, even in I So Hate Consequences, you're just like, oh, this is a good song. And then he's like, oh God, I needed you. It's like, whoa,
right.
What? Like,
and that's why, like, those first 6 songs, that's the only 25-second clip that even comes close to being something that you can objectively say, this is something a religious band would come out with, right? Like, but then people hand you the album or whatever, and they say they're a religious band. Then you start to think about, Be My Escape, is it a girl song or a God song? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, is it a girl song or a God song? Then you're kind of like, wait, all of it might be a religious record, but it didn't have to be if I wouldn't have known that. You know what I mean? If you don't plant the seed, do you even consider any of that? Because they go so fast and only give you a 20-second clip of worshipy hymn type piano singing. And then they go right back to that like punk homage minute long thing. And it's like, wait a minute. Wow, gotcha. You know, like, you did it. You did it just then. And then they rock hard out of it. Like, just getting by. You know, we're halfway through the next song already. Like, you tricky. Oh, Relient K. What are you doing? You're all over the place. But it's so good. You kind of hardly notice it for the first few hundred listens, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, again, I was dating this girl who was like super Christian. Her mom didn't want her to listen to anything that was not Christian music. And this was like an album where it was like, you know, my style. I was really into pop punk and pop rock, that I could be like, oh, hey, we can listen to this song in the car. And there was almost this extra specialness to it because my girlfriend was allowed to listen to this album. So like, I think there's also a part of that part of me where like it sits even more fondly in my memories because it was like something I was allowed to share. Whereas like she either hated or didn't want to listen to anything else at that time. It's just, yeah, it's interesting because so musically I compare Relient K to the Starting Line. I think honestly, Relient K at times rocks harder than the Starting Line, but I was thinking like,
dude, some of the riffs on Mmhmm are
amazing.
Like, I'll bring up the same point in the song again, but that whole like bobbing and weaving thing, the 2-minute mark of Which to Bury, Us or the Hatchet, and the 125 mark of Maintain Consciousness, it's just kind of like they're saying, just guys, don't worry about it so much. We're going to be fine. All right. Like, it's like, whoa, you know, it's just kind of like, I just want to say this very plainly. They would have been a fantastically talented and successful pop punk band without any of the religious aspect of it. It was just something I wanted to kind of or I think we both wanted to at least touch on a little bit, because it was definitely part of their fame and them as a band and who they were, right? So you can't like not mention it. But I think if you look musically at man, it rips, truly.
Well, I mean, it absolutely does. And I think they would have been just as well off if, I don't know, like the Christian thing is so weird because of how ambiguous it seemed. But, I started thinking like, if they were not Christian, would they have been more popular, more successful than the Starting Line? Since I think the voices, the music, some of the riffs are comparable. But then I did some digging on the numbers and wildly outsold Say It Like You Mean It by the Starting Line, which has Best of Me on it. And I mean, that was shocking. I saw that sold like 700,000 copies, which is like almost on its way to Mmhmm.
That's like the best joke you've ever told on the show, honestly.
I've been holding on to that.
Yeah. Lay some applause. Not even club horns, just layer in some. Yeah. That was, I got to give it up.
All right. So it was like, it far outsold Say It Like You Mean It. But I feel like Say It Like You Mean It is represented by like my friends anyway, as wildly more popular than And it got me wondering, like, why is that? Why was like the public perception of Relient K almost this kind of whispered thing like, hey, there's this album, they're kind of Christian, but it's okay because they're not really that Christian. Here's the album, but like people were freaking out about the
that's why I'm
line.
curious if did better because it was only vaguely, it could have been a record about girls and mental illness, or it could have been a record only about spirituality. Like, you could write an essay arguing either, So was the vagueness to its benefit?
It has me wondering if the vague Christianity aspect of it actually made it more successful. Because again, this is 2004. LimeWire isn't great. I don't think we quite had torrents yet. There weren't any streaming platforms. So people were probably buying albums at this time, maybe burning them. But if you think about it, like I know from my experience, Christian parents didn't want their kids to listen to secular music. So if they're the ones who are in charge of this stuff, or maybe they're the ones that bought this album for their kids, and they're the ones with money, obviously, so they have disposable income, they'll buy the album. Whereas teenagers were the ones listening to the Starting Line. Maybe they didn't have the money to buy. I don't know, dude. Like, I'm honestly shocked that from what I could find in a few minutes, sold double of what Say It Like You Mean It did.
Well, let's be upfront about the Starting Line. They wrote a good song. They went on Warped Tour.
Don't say it. They were more than
I
just
will
that
say
one
it like
song,
I
Pat.
mean it. I will say it like I mean it. No, what I'm saying is, no, Island, or was it, or what's that late career song about being on an island? That's really good. Who cares? They wrote a hit song. They went on Warped Tour. They went on Jimmy Kimmel. It was obvious how much sex they were having. They had a good time. They took a big hiatus, and then they came out with more music later. Like, that was the summer of love for them. They were out at a time at our age where it seemed like they were the biggest band ever because of what that album was for the scene. But I think, looking back, they were not even close to how big and how many records that Relient K sold. But yeah, it's like, was being a Christian rock band only detrimental to Relient K, or like you were mentioning with you and Stephanie in the car, I don't know if we're allowed to say the name or not, but like, did it help them like, oh, this is safe, pass it around the Christian community, and then it bleeds out from there? I guess it'll be kind of, it's hard to say, but did you want to discuss a little bit not track by track so much, but best song, worst song, stuff like that?
I do, but real quickly, I want to add that we have, in the year 2004, US Billboard 200 peaked at number 15, which is crazy. Like, that is a crazy number. US Christian albums on Billboard charted at number 1, obviously. I'm sure that had a lot to do with her success, but it did very well even in the, secular whatever. Wild. Absolutely wild. I guess I didn't
it's truly wild.
That. So, okay, I do have one story that I just think is really funny. Warped Tour 2007, Relient K was playing the main stage, and I was there for maybe 3 or 4 songs, and then I was like, oh, you know what? The Devil Wears Prada is playing at the same time, a few stages down. So, like an idiot, I left Relient K to go see the Devil Wears Prada, which also a band from Ohio, also vaguely Christian at the time. They were shitty metalcore, anyways. But
I didn't know Relient K was from Canton.
yeah, dude, Ohio just cranking out the hits.
Hey, everybody. This is only an Ohio podcast about music from now on. It secretly always has been and forever always will be. It was in our hearts.
So I left Relient K to go see Devil Wears Prada, and as soon as I was far enough away from the stage to barely hear what they were playing, they started covering the Office theme song, and I was like super bummed out that I missed it. But then I went over to Devil Wears Prada. I get in the pit. I'm there for like 20 seconds, and somehow this big dude, probably 300 plus pounds, kind of like did this kick backwards punch thing, and I don't know how he managed it, but he managed to punch me in the throat and kick like my Charlie horse at the exact same time. And it was like the worst experience at a musical performance. Okay, I've been knocked unconscious before at a show, and that did not compare to getting punched in the throat and kicked in the Charlie horse at a Devil Wears Prada show. And I was so bummed out that I sacrificed my time with Relient K to go see Devil Wears Prada just to get my ass kicked. I'll regret that forever.
It's interesting that this band could be your life book. Ian MacKaye, the Fugazi guy, well, he's more than just that, but kind of speaks poorly of slam dancing as like kind of this through the scene they create and everything. Like it becomes less about the cool scene energy and more about just like whooping the shit out of each other. And he kind of like denounces it, which I was kind of surprised by because it's such a like staple of what our scene was, right? At the time, I don't know if it went anywhere, but it was definitely prevalent when we were coming up and going to shows.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Counterparts in Denver last week, and there was definitely enough, and everyone seemed safe. No one was really hurt. I mean, I think it's fun. I was definitely into it as a kid. I would have been in that pit last week if I had health insurance, but I can't afford to not work. But I mean, I don't know. I think there's something
which pretty much makes the MacKaye's point for us, right? Like, right.
For sure.
If I had insurance, I would.
So let's go through. Yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about like this album obviously has its heavy hitters that everyone knows, but it's so good that like there's definitely some underdogs to talk about. And I think there's probably one or two songs that I could do without. So I thought it would be kind of fun to.
Here's what I could do without.
Let's do it.
Sure. All right, sure. I came in all strong, but then I was like, I don't know if Tom wanted to do this one first. More Than Useless.
Oh, interesting.
Keep it. Skip it. I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't like it.
Wow.
It's a little, I don't know. There's like emo and then there's like whiny. It's like, get out of here. This record's too good for this song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. You get to My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend, and to me, that's the first half of the record. You've made it through like a bunch of really interesting thoughts. They weave it together. It's really good. And then you get to that More Than Useless chorus, and you're like, okay, how many songs until Who I Am Hates Who I've Been? It's kind of like, to me, there's a definite gap, and I could go without track 7.
Okay. I could definitely do without Life After Death and Taxes. It's definitely like Which to Bury, Us or the Hatches, probably the heaviest song which then drops into like the lightest song. Crazy how they do that. But Life After Death and Taxes, not a huge fan. They do manage to like, that's one of their songs where it's less of like a predefined structure and more of just like movements throughout. It never really goes back to what it did. They go into like a 3/4 time at some point. It's wild. It ends with these weird like haunted violins. There's screaming, time signature changes, huge dynamic compositional changes, but like I just don't really love it that much. So if I had to, I mean, this is an hour-long album. We don't really get those anymore. So like, I think it's fair to take away 3 albums and you'd still have more than a modern day album, which are usually clocking in around like 35 minutes. This was like 56 minutes or something. I'll get rid of Life After Death and Taxes. More Than Useless. It's not my least favorite. I think Maintain Consciousness. It's probably
I love Maintain Consciousness.
Really?
Yeah, dude, it's like one of those album payoffs. You've made it all the way to track 10. Who I Am Hates Who I've Been is obviously We'll get to that later. But Maintain Consciousness comes in, and it's a song about ADD, but then they come with that. It's one of the best breakdown. It's not even a breakdown. It's just like rock your fucking face off moments of the album comes in right in the middle of this inconspicuous song that comes after the best song on the album. And it's just like a treat. It's like, that's what I think about, like, More Than Useless is just whiny and dumb. Like, there's no payoff. But like, you get to Maintain Consciousness, and he's like, okay, it's my ADD song or whatever, but I'm also going to gift you guys, thanks for hanging around to this hour-long fucking album, but I'm going to put some like Easter eggs in throughout. And if you make it halfway through that song, you get that guitar comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, we'll take it from here. You know, it's just like, well,
no, I mean, that riff is good, but the main riff, the one that opens with a like,
right, but that's the thing.
So
it
childishly
speaks to
playful.
This album is all over the place at any given moment. Again, intentionally or not, I guess that remains up for debate. But you kind of have to hang around and listen to the whole thing to appreciate all the different parts. And to me, it gets a pass because of the riff, because of how every other, like, I So Hate Consequences, you either love it or hate it because of the piano part at the end, but that's the song that has that gift in it. This is the song, Consciousness is the one that has that riff gift in it. So I think it gets a pass for me.
Okay.
And you have to take each song on that type of like scale or grade or whatever.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. That's my justification anyway. I agree that like this album might be too long actually, and sometimes it's a little too wild and you don't know what's happening, and you could get rid of 4 or 5 songs or whatever and, you know, clean it up a little bit. But if we're treating it based on what it is, keep it, I say.
I would also get rid of Let It All Out, but my
Ooh,
one.
see, that's the preachiest song. Do you want to talk about that for like a quick few seconds?
Sure.
I mean, that's tough because Which to Bury Us or the Hatchet comes at you, right?
And then drops right into this.
Then it drops, and it's just like, whoo-wee. But then it comes in, and you're gifted with Who I Am Hates Who I've Been right after. So it's like, do you love the band enough to hang around, you know?
I mean, it's like, it's a pretty song, but I don't know.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where like, if you look at your iTunes library right now, do you love the album? Is it one of those things where you downloaded the whole thing? Or do you have like 6 of the 12 or 6 of the 10, you know? Like,
yeah.
I bet you there's a lot of iTunes libraries out there that don't have Let It All Out in, but if you love the album that much, you would have appreciated that you had to endure it to get to Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, maybe.
Right.
I don't think either of us are in that camp, but yeah, I mean, I could lose it too, honestly. Who I Am Hates Who I've Been is pretty much the only song of the whole bunch that is one of my all-timers, I gotta say.
So, okay, so then that's, you're gonna be like your tier A heavy hitter?
Yeah, I could give a shit about Be My Escape.
Oh, okay.
High of 75 has that like poppy softness to it.
Yeah.
I would say One I'm Waiting For, Girl's Ex-Boyfriend, and Who I Am Hates Who I've Been are my top 3 on the record. And Who I Am Hates Who I've Been is an all-timer for me. It would probably crack my top 100.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I So Hate Consequences is super good. I love, you know, it drops down to the piano part, and then just like, they could have ended it there. They could have so easily ended it there. But then squat, like,
that's the thing, dude. Like, it's like, we weren't praying, bye, you know. It's like, to me, that's why it feels like it was overcompensating, like they were trying to get out from under that umbrella. If you listen to those first 6 tracks, I think that's my main argument for they were conscious of it and trying to shed that, maybe, or not shed it, but sneak it in and try to make it less obvious than maybe. That's pretty much where my head was at when I was revisiting it this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably my number 1 as well. I don't think we have any stipulations on we can't choose the same one.
Yeah, I watched The Proverbial Sunrise, dude. Coming up over the, you know, it's like, oh God. You know, it's kind of like one of those things where when you hear Quiet Things That No One Ever Knows for the first time or something, you hear that line, you're like, this could either really suck or be one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life, because you don't use the word proverbial. Or it's like when you first listen to All American Rejects, and he's that one big album everyone heard of theirs for the first time, and, you know, be with me, please, I beseech you. You're like, dude, you can't use beseech in the first 30 seconds unless you fucking deliver. And they do, and it works, but like, you're taking a chance with that for sure. So yeah, it's utterly terrific. It rocks. It's a transcendent song for sure. Probably one of the most important pop punk tunes of the decade, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the one I'm waiting for rocks pretty hard too, but I So Hate
Ooh,
Consequences, definitely super good.
yeah. What I'm waiting for is what's tough is album openers never get treated the same, because
Yeah.
it's like, it's almost unfair to album openers, right? Like, you're, whoa, what's the best song on this album? Let me get through the first few songs until I find it. It's like kind of how it's always been set up. But yeah, she knows it, man. And it's like, ooh, what?
I do want to say that the summer or high of 75, for some reason, my brain always went to like 1975. I think I equated high with like high school for some reason. I'd like never really
Okay.
understood the song. But it's like, oh no, it's the perfect day. It's a high of 75 degrees outside. And now I'm almost more upset because that's way too hot for me, man. Like if I wrote the song, it would be like overcast with the high of 67 would be my song.
Give me Instagram fall. Give me some decorative gourds. Decorative gourds with a high of 65.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so is there a kind of low-key hit in here that you think doesn't get the respect it deserves?
Sure. I think Be My Escape gets too much credit. High of 75 has that weird pop drum. It's like,
yes.
and then a boom, 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 boom. I'm like, this. It's good, obviously. But it's like they come in like they're trying to break the strings on the acoustic, and then they go with like a pop chorus. It's like, what the is this? There are moments, and I've mentioned the two specific points where it's a big payoff. And then there are moments where they switch it up where you're like, I don't even know what's happening, right? It's just like, but what's weird is he's handling topics like spirituality and mental illness and things like that, and going with your own anger and your own feelings about the Lord and women and all this stuff. And you're like, it's just a lot. So you have to listen to it a few like 1,000 times to even kind of break it down into its raw elements. But I think one I'm waiting for is underrated because it is an album opener. I think my second number 2 on the album is My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend. I think it's one of those songs where you like, how you make every song about yourself.
Yeah.
This is one where I couldn't, but I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like I listened to it over and over, like who could be the characters in this play in my mind, And I could never quite piece it together because I don't know. It's such a specific story that he tells, but that song's fucking awesome. I love that song.
Yeah, man, I'm tempted to say that's mine as well. But I honestly really like this week the trend. It almost has like a Your Favorite Weapon kind of vibe with like the plainness and the melody and the rhythm of it. It's a good one. I mean, it's definitely not the one I think about when I think of this album. Oh God, it's hard.
You know what? While you think, I listened to Your Favorite Weapon the other day, and I can't anymore, man. It takes me back to such a specific, like there are parts of high school that were great, and there were parts that were just utterly humiliating. And I equate it to Adam and his mom when we were playing FIFA video games, or FIFA 99, the video game on PlayStation 1 or something, which was what we used to do. And we were just swearing, right? Like playing video games and swearing, I think, is not lost. It's like not an uncommon, right? Whoever had video games was probably swearing while playing them. It's only got worse over time. But Adam's mom came in with pizza for us, which was like the nicest thing. And we were just swearing. And I happened to be the last person swearing out loud when she walked in the door. And it was just something it's one of those 10 things you flow through your mind while you're like, that's going to make me upset all day if I remember this thing. So I like can't listen to Your Favorite Weapon for that reason.
I there? I feel like I remember
Yeah,
that.
it was at your house. She came to your house with pizza, which was like out of her way 2 times over. And we were just like, I think we were playing Barcelona we were like in some Champions League FIFA match with Barcelona versus
99.
whatever. And we were, yeah, right. The graphics are awful, but it was
you
fun.
have to turn the slide tackle penalties off. That's all you have to play.
That's the only way to do it. Just slide tackle everyone super dangerous from behind. And yeah, I mean, we're just trying like the harder and harder levels on the game. It was getting pretty intense. And yeah, I cussed Adam's mom out, just like, what do you want? What the F do you want?
Oh, that's right. They came in through the kitchen door, which was behind us.
Right. So it could have been Adam or Zach were planning on coming over or whatever. And it was like, hey, I thought I was just like being a kid. But
no,
like,
you were straight up. They opened the door and Adam was like, hey guys. And you were like, you started cussing him out, not knowing his mom was directly behind him
just
holding
brutal.
pizza.
Just brutal. I had done the same to your mom.
To my mom.
Yeah.
The
like the first day.
met.
Yeah. Just brutal. I'm surprised your mom still lets me talk to you because of how much stuff I've broken in her house. It was weird because there's so many. It's like it's weird how you kind of revert to who you were when you were with those groups earlier in life, right? But that was so unlike any other interaction I've had with any other group of people. But when I was with you, and come back to this every week, I was destructive, wildly disrespectful, very profane. And your mom's version of me is like it's only like a 10% glimpse of what like I have the capability to behave like, kind of. But those specific memories just haunt me. And I have found that your favorite weapon just brings all of it up. It's like, hey, you want to remember some stuff? It's like, nope, I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, hopefully you found what you were looking for, because that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that.
That's so funny. Yeah. Your favorite weapon makes me think of the time we played Dan Majeski's birthday party. He lived 2 blocks away. And my dad built this drum riser that had like a putting green on it, and it weighed like 400 pounds. And we stacked both parts of this like 8-foot by 8-foot drum riser and all of our gear like on a skateboard, and then rolled it all down the street.
Yeah.
That's what your favorite weapon reminds me of, because we covered a song from that. I think it was Last Chance to Lose Your Keys or something. Anyways,
I think we covered Failure by Design. Well, let's circle it back. Failure by Design and Who I Am Hates Who I've Been are 2 songs that when you hear them, you're like, I was somehow waiting for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know why, but it's kind of like when you have a dream and you're like, oh, I have lived this before or something. You know what I mean? Like deja vu. It's kind of like certain songs feel like deja vu to your ears, I guess. Like Failure by Design is what we covered at that show, but then Who I Am Hates Who I've Been is just like, it's like, man, this riff hits, but it's like I was expecting it to enter my, I don't know, kind of just one of those pop punk tunes that made sense because we were so into that music, and was just one of those top 25, top 50, top 100 pop punk songs of the decade. We'd have to maybe do more research for that list, of course. But yeah, Who I Am Hates Who I've Been gets my runaway top of the album vote.
Okay. Yeah.
And our sleeper is...
Wait. I thought it was I So Hate Consequences.
No.
Oh, you said sleeper. No, okay.
No. Okay. My throwaway is More Than Useless. I hate that song.
Okay.
My underdog song is Girl's Ex-Boyfriend. My best song is Who I Am Hates Who I've Been. And you tried to on Maintain Consciousness, but I'd argue that's the best guitar work on the album, and that you should take it back now.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
But I don't care that much. Because to me, this album is Who I Am Hates Who I've Been. It's just like the album that gave us that song. Because there's stuff that gets played hundreds and thousands, at the top of your most played, when iTunes had that first version that, you could order it by play count and be like, wow, these are my favorite songs, like it's proven. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's between I So Hate Consequences and Who I Am Hates Who I've Been.
Why Consequences? Just because you were going through the Christian vibe and it hit in that way? Or...
I just think the "and I good to go" is like so catchy.
So you just like it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just good. It's good. I think I confused this song with Who I Am Hates Who I've Been when we were talking about it earlier. I'm all confused now. There's so many damn songs in this album.
Right. Yeah, lesson 1. It's long. No, we had joked, and we can kind of maybe start to wrap it up a little bit. It was kind of a power move to have Who I Am Hates Who I've Been at track 10. I think what our first thought was like,
it's cocky.
You go through a ton of music before you get to like, oh, by the way, everybody, welcome to the second half of the album. We're going to lay out, we got some shit to lay down on you. And it's like, okay, thanks guys.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it almost seems like very confident. Like they're going to bury, it's like Blink-182 leaving All the Small Things at number 8. Like, that the rest of the album is so good, people are going to get to it. Like, you don't feel compelled to open the album with it because, again, people weight openers differently because they're like, well, that's kind of an unfair advantage. Of course, they would put the best as their opener, but like...
But that's the thing is you don't put your best as the opener. It has to be one of your best, but it has to be catchy, and it has to be catchy in a way that draws you in, not just blows you away. You know what I mean? It's almost like album openers have to be a very specific kind of good almost, and that feels like a discussion for a different day maybe, but like ordering an album couldn't be more important, and it was a power move like an MFer.
Yes.
To wait till track 10, because most albums are only 10 tracks long anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
So, okay. We got through the things we wanted to. There's probably another 2 hours of discussion we can have.
Yeah,
but
there's so much, man. I was like running around yesterday, listening again, like there's something I'm missing here. And yeah, just the fact that it goes from highs to lows to fasts to slows is just masterful. It's a tapestry. It's terrific. It's tremendous. I'm glad I had a chance to listen to it at the time. It was very important. And that's pretty much all my thoughts on it, to be honest. Not one of my favorite records, but I mean, happy 15-year anniversary. Thanks for the memories, honestly. Like it's crazy that it's been 15 years. I'm glad. I mean, we're going to enter the 20-year anniversary realm next year with stuff that came out in the year 2000. But this year of 15-year anniversaries we've been doing has been with American Idiot and things like that has been fun.
Yeah, I think my wrap up final thoughts are cannot believe how good this album is. It captures a level of, I don't know, experimentalness. I don't know. And creativity.
The technical term is bobbing and weaving.
It has more bobbing and weaving and creativity than I think is seen in most modern pop rock or pop punk albums. I'm amazed at how well it stood up. At the time, I was really grateful for the Christian undertones, and now 15 years later, atheist Tom wishes that they weren't there, because it just kind of, to me, it feels like it gets in the way. Back then, it felt like a good excuse to listen to pop punk in front of my very Christian girlfriend's parents.
Here's my officially last thought is I'm glad there was a record like Mmhmm that lasted like this, so that 15 years later we can go back and acknowledge the fact that the Christian scene was there.
Yeah.
It's like one of the artifacts that allows us to re-enter that realm of memories, because whether or not it's more or less today, we haven't done the necessary research to prove or disprove that based on our discussion earlier. I kind of wanted to circle back a little bit, but at least for our scene and how indicative it was, there was at least a few albums, and this is maybe the best one, that proved that it was something that you at least encountered once as a kid coming up, with the youth group scenes and things like that. But I'm glad this artifact exists. I'll say that.
Yeah, same. Do you want to give a song of the week?
Yeah, I'm going to go, well, it's weird. California Snow off the Black album by Weezer. That was a few months ago, but they just came out with a music video that Adam Devine is starring in. I put up a couple polls on Twitter to see if you guys didn't seem to care too much for either of these videos, but it was weird. It was fun, whatever. Black album was weird and fun and mostly bad, I guess. But I will say Jesse and I were on YouTube just skipping around on Saturday night in between, like watching a couple movies, but watched Kiss and Tell. Tom DeLonge is asked to do a type of acting in a music video I had never seen him in asked to do.
Yeah.
It is just, that's my song of the week officially.
Oh.
It is not a bad song, and I've always loved the Angels and Airwaves aesthetic, where they put the lights up behind the band and everything, ever since seeing them live with Taking Back Sunday in Cleveland all those years ago with you. But why? He's a married man. He shouldn't be doing this.
Well, he filed for divorce.
And it was just...
which I think he's choosing his career over the girl in the video is the message.
Well, he does it's a unique performance. And it's like very teen. It's kind of weird. Like, are he and Hoppus? It's kind of like how if you drink too much coffee when you're young, it stunts your growth or whatever. Or I guess that's the wives' tale. Is getting famous at age 17 detrimental to your mental health or something? Like,
Yes.
Can they not escape this? It's kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, that I get it, but okay, well, we don't have to think about it that hard. It's like, it's a very teen music video, but he's an old guy. So I feel bad that I didn't know that he was going through divorce. So I guess I kind of take all that back, but it was not my favorite, I guess, is what I wanted to say. And I'll stop talking now.
It's a good song. I am a little sad that they seem to be walking away from their more ambient, like ethereal, spacey music, and they're kind of going into like probably what Tom wishes Blink-182 still was. I really like that hard line between the two bands that's getting blended a little more now. But Kiss and Tell is good. I saw them live a couple weeks ago, and they were just super fun.
I think that first Angels and Airwaves album, and we'll have to do a show about it, was it was lightning in a bottle. I think he'd been waiting for so many years to do that it happened. And then it was just a side project, and he didn't have 3 more albums worth of that shit in his head. You know, he just ended up reusing old Blink riffs and slowing them down.
Well, and their producer was a very important part of that band, and he passed away 5 or 6 years ago. And Tom said, like, credited him as like almost, I mean, equally as important as any of the other band members, and really helped them define their sound. So I think it makes sense that
the chains, the marching sound, you know, just like the militant aerospace vibe of the whole thing, the whole project came through. And maybe it was only a 1 record project looking back. You know, we're allowed to say that now, maybe.
They had 3 amazing records. Let's
do the show. 4. Save it
Maybe
because
4.
you're wrong, and I can't wait to discuss how wrong you are.
All right, so my song of the week, I think for the second time, is In Violet by Grayscale. If you have already listened to that, because I recommended it, the song Painkiller Weather off the same album is very good. Either of those two, just, God, they are very good. I'm a big fan of Grayscale lately. And I believe we have the Academy Is coming up per a Twitter request, and then the week after that is going to be the day after Thanksgiving, and we have a soundtrack battle from 2 of our favorite family-friendly holiday movies that feature great soundtracks. We're gonna
they rocked harder than they needed to, for sure. So yeah, but first, next week I think you can dial it in. We're gonna go with everything we remember about the Academy Is, all wrapped into a nice little,
which is very little, and I apologize, but we'll do it.
Right. Yeah, we'll revisit. I think there's specific points on the album that you and I each recall. And it was represented a Forever the Sickest Kids type time in the decade that is worth touching on, kind of late aughts discussions that we can have about that band as well. So that's exciting. And we're getting close to the end of the year. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk to you next week, trying to remember anything that I used to know about the Academy Is. And
yeah. Anyways, Tom, I love you. And I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
All right, love you too, man. See ya. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking all the way through to the end. Please hit us up on Twitter @_reminiscentfm and let us know what your favorite banger and your favorite sleeper song are from this record. Let us know what you think about Relient K's success as a Christian band, if it helped, if it hurt. I honestly don't know. It's hard to speculate, but we will be back next week. Can't wait to talk to you all later. Love you. Bye.